Hello, and welcome back to Conversations with Quincy Dems. Each episode, we're just kind of leveling up here with our political involvement on the local level. Our first episode, we talked about our Quincy City Democratic Committee and what that is. In our second episode, we got all into the caucus and how it works and how to be a part of it. And this week, we are leveling up hard because we are talking about running for office. Woo! And we are so fortunate to have with us today Nina Liang, who is our city councilor at large. So she has successfully navigated that process and with flying colors. And she is also part of a project called Emerge and is being a wonderful resource for us today on how to run for office. Nina, it's so nice to have you. We have not met before, and I'm kind of fangirling because it keeps stumbling over my words. But I'm so happy to have you. What would you like to tell us about yourself and about the process of what it's like running for office?
So I'm super excited to be here and to join all of you in this new project, the Conversations with Quincy Dems. So just to give you a little bit of background on how I came about this organization and what I'd love to talk to all of you today about is, when I first ran for office in 2015, and I share this story a lot with folks, to be very frank with you, prior to 2015 was not a registered Democrat, right? I just was not politically involved whatsoever. I voted for Obama twice up until that point. Couldn't tell you who my neighbor, who was Joe Finn, one of the at-large counselors, was. I knew him as Mr. Finn, right? I didn't know what an at-large counselor did at the time. And then down the street, we had our state rep, Bruce Ayers, knew who he was, right? I'd known him for a very long time. Again, couldn't tell you what he did. But when I had decided to put my hat into the ring to run for city council at large at the time, there was a lot that happened before then. I was lucky enough to work for my family's small business, and that provided us the opportunity to be really philanthropic, right, in every community that we operated in. But Quincy is really our home base, I guess you can call it, and so we started getting involved in Quincy when I was super young. And so when I started working with them, I had the opportunity to be the one to volunteer time, get involved with nonprofits, volunteer at different events that we were donating to. And so I got to know a lot of different folks in the community that way. But then on top of that, we loved what we did here in the city. It afforded us the opportunity to expand in other areas, but really, again, our focus always came back to the city. And so somebody had said to me, well, you should think about running for city council. And I guffawed because I didn't know what that was at the time. And we talked through how that's really a good disconnect to make sure that we can actually feel like we're represented as residents here in the city.
What do you think is the reason that is? Why more people don't run for office? What are the barriers that are in place?
Some of the conversation that I'm hearing is that they just feel like they are not qualified, right? Or they feel very intimidated by the process. How can I raise that much money? And how much money am I supposed to raise? And what am I actually supposed to do? And do I create a website or do I create a Facebook page? And I'm supposed to get pens, and I'm supposed to get t-shirts, and I'm supposed to go knock on doors, but then I have to, it's a lot.
What's the first thing that somebody needs to do?
I had no idea what I was doing, right? I didn't know what it meant to pull papers. I didn't know what it meant to open up a bank account. So again, I was very, very blessed to be surrounded by just, brilliant folks in this industry who helped me to put all those pieces together to run for office and ultimately to win. And the last thing that you should be worried about if that's going to stop you is what are nomination papers and how do I even pull them? That shouldn't be the reason why, you're decided not to run for office or represent your community.
You have to set up some way to raise money that isn't like just you personally.
Here in Massachusetts, we're very, very strict, as we should be. And I actually appreciate that. You have to go and you have to make sure that you're in compliance with OCPF, which is the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. And they will work with you to tell you which banks will actually open up a campaign account. There are some banks, and I found this out when I went to go open up a bank account, I wanted to use, obviously, Quincy Credit Union would have been preferred, somebody local, but quite a number of banks actually don't open campaign accounts. It's like a checking account under your campaign. So you go through and they have a reporting on their end as well, that they report, how much you brought in donations and what you spent to OCPF, and all that's public, right? Again, as it should be. But yes, that's the process, right? You have to make sure you're in compliance with OCPF. You have to get a treasurer, right? The treasurer is the person that's sharing this responsibility with you.
What if we math wrong?
OCPF will catch that, and they'll send a letter to us and an email to us to let us know, hey, there's an error, right? They're not doing gotchas. OCPF is phenomenal. They want to make sure that we're in compliance, because it's the last thing you need to worry about is, dealing with all of that madness when you're running for office, knocking on doors, talking to folks.
Yeah.
So OCPF has been great with that.
And do you also need to have a campaign manager?
You don't need to have necessarily like a designated paid campaign manager before you start, right? It really depends on you and the campaign you want to run, right? If you are creating a structure for yourself and a schedule of tasks for yourself that folks around you can rally around and help you with and volunteer their time to accomplish with you, and they don't care about those titles, well, you're still getting the work done at the end of the day, right? So there are a lot of folks who say, you need a campaign manager, you need somebody to run all that stuff. Of course you do. If somebody volunteers their time to do so, but they don't care about the title, it doesn't really matter, right?
I want to ask one more question. Going back to your own personal experience as a candidate, what's the one thing that you wish you had known your first time going into it that you would want someone else to know if they were embarking on that process?
Oh, so many things.
Everything.
Let me just preface this entire answer by saying that everyone will have an opinion, myself included, right? And you will get advice from everyone. At the end of the day, your name is the name on the ballot. Your name, you're the one running for office. You're the one putting yourself out there. And so you have to be ultimately comfortable with the decisions that you make for yourself on your campaign.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nina. Thank you so much for this fabulous conversation. So inspiring.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I always enjoy chatting with you guys.
Yay. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.